afternoon, everyone. The time is now 6:00 p.m. We thank you all for joining us today. And let's talk about the Alabama K through 3 Literacy Act. We have a special guest with us today that we can learn from. That's Dr. William Millich. He's with the Alabama Department of Education. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud to see you all on with us today. I am proud of our scholars, and we are very proud of our faculty and staff. We want you all to know that the Literacy Act is law, and they are very crucial to us ensuring that our scholars are going to be promoted to 4th grade, and that we're putting forth our best efforts to ensure all of our scholars are reading fluently by the end of 3rd grade. This act is not only for our K3, not only for our 3rd graders, it's for all of our K3 scholars and all of the scholars who attend, most importantly, George Washington Carver Elementary or the Macon County schools. That being said, we have some norms. We ask that you hold the questions until the end of the presentation. You can also post the questions in our chat box, and we will most definitely get them answered. Dr. William Millich is very important to us because he's the person that comes by to check on us to make sure we're following all of the laws and the mandates that are written forth for us for this thing called the Literacy Act. With that being said, none other than Dr. William Millich will present to you all some very important information. Thank you.
Good afternoon, George Washington Carver family, or should I say good evening. If I can get everyone to mute themselves, and as Mr. Williams stated, we will be able to take questions towards the end of this presentation, and we will address anything that's put in the chat. Let me commend all of you for taking this time this evening, because without you, we simply can't get the job done that needs to be done concerning our students. So this evening, I want to talk to you about the Alabama Literacy Act. We just want to give a slight overview of it, and then we want to get into detail so we can discuss wholeheartedly the ins and outs of the Literacy Act, how it affects you, how it affects your children, and what can the school and the parent collaboration do to ensure that our boys and girls are proficient in reading or are academically sound when it comes to not only reading, but all subject matters. So what is the Alabama Literacy Act? The Alabama Literacy Act was passed in 2019. The purpose of the Literacy Act is to focus in on the boys and girls in 3rd grade to ensure that they are at or above grade level in preparation to moving to the 4th grade. But it's bigger than just moving to the 4th grade. Research has shown that if a young man or a young woman is proficient in reading by 3rd grade, that they will be successful in all areas: science, social studies, writing, even math. So again, we focus in on literacy K through 3 because we want to build it foundationally, and following up on the research, have them strong in the area of literacy by the end of 3rd grade. Again, this provides that opportunity to not only be strong students moving forward, but it cuts down on that deficiency gap that we see so often in our boys and girls. So how will families be informed about their child's progress? As I know with Mr. Williams, Ms. Brown, and Ms. Minifield, they ensure that they are communicating with you on a regular basis. Just tonight, with all of you being here on this Zoom session, proves that not only are they communicating, but you're actually receiving the communication and being involved in what's taking place. At the beginning of every year, there's a beginning of the year assessment. The assessment for Macon County is iReady. When they do that I-Ready assessment, it gives a wealth of information concerning where your child is and what areas we may need to address to ensure that they are able to reach that proficiency level. We focus in on the big five, and that's what we call it with the Alabama Reading Initiative. And those big five are phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. When they do the I-Ready beginning of the year assessment, it addresses those areas and it lets the teachers know, as well as administration know, where your child may be strong or where there may be areas of concern or what we call deficits. The objective is not to pinpoint and focus just where the child may have areas of, I don't even want to say weakness, just areas of concerns that need to be addressed. The objective is to ensure that we are aware of those areas and we are putting things in place, interventions, and utilizing strategies to address those deficits, to close those gaps. What is the Alabama State Board of Education approved assessment that is required for promotion to the 4th grade? That assessment is the ACAP, the Alabama Comprehensive Assessment Program. It's an English language arts assessment, but what we do is we pull out the reading questions, and that's how they determine if that pathway to promotion will actually move them on to 4th grade or not. Presently, we have a cut score of 452. That 452 basically states that the child is showing sufficiency or that they are demonstrating that they have the tools to be on or above grade level, but they're not quite proficient yet. That score is a sufficient score, but again, the objective is to ensure that they are on or above grade level in preparation for 4th grade and moving further. How will schools help students who are retained in 3rd grade because the student does not meet the promotion requirement? Now, when it comes to that, we have summer reading camp, which that's an invitation piece, but it is also extremely important. We have a thing called the summer slide, where students aren't doing much academically during the summer, so it affects them when they come back into school for the fall. So we offer summer reading camp, as well as ensuring that we're providing those interventions of those identified deficits to make sure, again, that we're closing those gaps. Say, hypothetically, if a child is showing a deficit in vocabulary, then our focal point is vocabulary. But we don't want to disregard phonological awareness, phonics, and fluency. But again, if they're showing strength in those areas, then we want to build that vocabulary, because when you have all of those things together, then you have a proficient reader, which means that they are able to comprehend. So often in the past, we would always say, well, a child couldn't read because they couldn't comprehend what they read. But we've learned over time and through the science of reading that we need all 5 pieces to ensure that we have a student who truly is a proficient reader. Other ways that they'll address students who could possibly be retained are offering before and after school intervention tutoring programs throughout the year, which again, I know that GW Carver does just that. Ensuring that reading instruction is being provided by a highly qualified teacher who is grounded in the science of reading is another way of ensuring that our boys and girls are getting the instruction that they need. But I think one of the most important pieces is providing families with the Read at Home plan. The Read at Home plan is a plan that parents can work with their children at home that to some degree mirror what's taking place here at the school. But again, these things cannot be done without the support and the partnership with the parents and the school. So let's look at our pathways to promotion. There are 4 ways that a 3rd grader can move on to 4th grade based upon the Literacy Act. Note that it states 3rd graders will be promoted to 4th grade if they demonstrate sufficient reading skills through one of the following pathways. The first way is to score above the lowest achievement level for the ACAP in the spring. That was that 452 I spoke of. Now, 2nd graders take the ACAP, but It's more so not only an opportunity to practice, but to see where our second graders are moving into third grade. But the third grade is where the retention piece comes into play. Again, if they demonstrate that they can meet that 452 or score above that 452, then that's grounds for promotion. However, the ACAP is not the only way that a child can be promoted. And the objective of the Literacy Act is not to fail our students or retain our students, but to make sure we're addressing those deficits, because the goal is to have not only a proficient reader all the way through school, but when you find those individuals who are proficient and secure in their ability to read, you find that level of confidence and that ability to go out into society and be as productive as they possibly can. So the second way that a child can be promoted to fourth grade is earn an acceptable score on the ACAP supplemental assessment. Now, the supplemental assessment is given at the end of summer. This ties back into summer reading camp and why summer reading camp is so important. If you find that in the spring your child does not meet the cut score and they're invited to summer reading camp, it's suggested that they attend summer reading camp. The rationale behind that is within the summer reading camp, just as they were doing in school, those teachers are able to address those deficits and close that gap. So by the time it's time to take the supplemental assessment and at the end of summer, they have a chance of actually, again, beating or going beyond that cut score of 452. If by chance they take the supplemental assessment and they don't score 452 or above, then they have the portfolio piece. This is the piece where the teachers are consistently not only addressing the critical standards from the Alabama course of study, but gaining evidence that shows that your child has shown mastery for those critical standards. The objective is to score at least a 70 on those pieces of evidence, and that's collected throughout the year. If I'm not mistaken, GW Carver has a portfolio for all of their third grade students. If I'm misspeaking, Mr. Williams, please correct me.
Yes, sir. The plan is that we continue with not only those persons who are at mastery or non-mastery, is to include all of them. So yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, all of our third grade students here at GW Carver have a portfolio, and basically the teachers are collecting work samples. It's what they do on a regular basis, but for this particular situation, they're collecting work samples or evidence for specific standards. If by chance they don't meet the cut score or beat the cut score during the ACAP summative or at the end of summer for the ACAP supplemental, then the portfolio comes into play. And if they've demonstrated mastery based on that evidence that's collected within the portfolio, that's another way that they can actually move on to fourth grade. The final way that they can actually move on to fourth grade is meet one of the good cause exemptions. Presently, there are 3 good cause exemptions. I don't want to insult anyone by reading it to you, but I think these are important because I think this may actually lead to different questions that may need to be addressed. So the first good cause exemption, students identified as English language learners who have had less than 3 years of instruction in English as a second language can be promoted to fourth grade, but they would still receive intervention and other supports, because we're not disregarding the fact that they may have a deficit, but we're not punishing them for not having the needed instruction in terms of being English language learners. The second good cause exemption, students with disabilities who participate in the statewide English language arts reading assessment and who have an individualized education plan or IEP or a Section 504 plan that reflects that the student has received intensive reading intervention for more than 2 years and who still demonstrated deficiency in reading or was previously retained in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or third grade. Now, let me explain this, and I'm sure there'll still be more questions, but Just because a child has an IEP does not mean they are automatically promoted. It really depends on how the IEP is written or how the 504 is written. And it also depends on if they've been previously retained in kindergarten through third grade before. But one of the most important pieces is that they've received intensive reading intervention for more than 2 years. Now, I know GW Carver has had their interventions in place for more than 2 years. And if your child has been here for those during that time, then that's covered. But again, I think the most important piece is to understand it's a matter of how the IEP is written, what the IEP addresses, and what the 504 addresses. Because just because a student has an IEP or a 504 is not an automatic promotion. The final thing is students who have received intensive reading intervention for 2 or more years and who still demonstrated efficiency in reading and who were previously retained in kindergarten, first grade, or second grade for a total of 2 years. So if you've had a student who was retained, say hypothetically in first grade, and then moved on to second and ended up being retained again in second, that's good cause exemption to move them on to fourth when they go to third, if they don't meet the cut score or if they don't fare well in terms of the portfolio. Note at the very bottom where it states if a student does not demonstrate sufficient reading skills through one of the 3 pathways or does not qualify for a good cause exemption, the student may not be promoted to fourth grade. And again, I want everyone to understand we're not trying to punish the students. We're trying to ensure that we're moving students forward based on their actual ability. But before we move into questions, I want to share a few things with the parents that I know Mr. Williams and Ms. Minifield and Ms. Brown have all probably already shared with you. But again, these things can't be done without the partnership between the parents and the school. So when I spoke earlier, I talked about the Big Five, and now we say the Big Five plus 2, because we include writing and we also include a higher level of vocabulary. But what we have here are QR codes that if you scan those, they will actually take you to resources that you can work with your children with at home, side by side. I say at home and side by side because, technology has made things really convenient for us. And a lot of times we will pass that phone or that tablet over to our children and tell them to just go in another room while we work on something else. But this is that opportunity to bring that family time together and truly demonstrate that partnership that, hey, what's being done at school is expected to be shown at home. And that's the way that we bring our children up to where they need to be and ensure that not only are our grades matching what the ability is, but we don't have that deep concern when it's time for that spring assessment if they're going to be promoted or if they're going to be retained, because we're all on the same page, we're all working towards the same goal, and we're all speaking the same language. But again, you have your Big Five plus the 1, your oral language, phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and your writing. But again, this document has been shared with Mr. Williams, and I'm sure he'll have it posted on his website or possibly send some copies home. We also have another resource, and this is called the My Child Can packet. You scan these codes, it actually tells you what your child should be able to do in the grade that they're presently in, and even looking at the grade that they're possibly going to. Now, the Alabama Reading Initiative and the Alabama Literacy Act focuses on kindergarten through third grade. So this resource guide actually stops at third grade. However, it also gives you insight of the different standards. So not only are you looking at the standards and exactly what the teacher is teaching, you have an idea of what your child should be able to do when it comes to those standards and academics. So that's an overview of the Alabama Literacy Act. the communication that should be taking place between the school and the parents, as well as a few resources. Hopefully I wasn't too long-winded and I didn't go too fast, but I am here to take whatever questions you may have. Do we have anything in the chat, Mr. Williams?
At this time, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to place those questions in the chat box, and we'll get those questions answered. And also, while I'm here, I'll go ahead and state that Dr. Millage has been a great person to help us at GWC, a great person with great knowledge when it comes to the Alabama Literacy Act. So we are very appreciative of him and for taking out his time to ensure that we communicate with you all. And we find many ways to do that. Class Dojo, not only Class Dojo, we've talked about literacy doing open house, PTA meetings, literacy and math nights. And we have other activities that are planned throughout the school year to ensure that we're reaching all families. So what I need for you all to do is to ask a neighbor, a friend, anyone from the community and other communities, have you ever heard of the Literacy Act? And if they have not, ask them or tell them, I should say, well, let's try to find out as much information as we can, and let's try to make sure all of our little people are going to school, attending school on a regular basis, and that they're going to school prepared. All of our teachers have put forth great efforts to ensure that diagnostic number 1 was well taken care of. At this point, you all have your results from diagnostic number 1. That's the iReady assessment. With those results now cause us, if the child has a deficiency, which was outlined in the letter given or the letter that was placed in your blue folder. Now we're at the point where we are creating student reading intervention plans, which is also known as SHRIP. If it's more than one, it's SHRIPs with an S. So of course we have several SHRIPs that are in need of being completed here at GWC. That plan consists of a meeting with you, the parent or the guardian, the principal, or admin, someone from admin, or all of the persons in the building that we utilize as a resource to include your child's teacher. So we're in the process of getting those dates to everyone to ensure that we've met the deadlines for communication purposes and to ensure that we're following the law. It is not a law written by GWC, Macon County Board of Education. It is a state law. So at this point, parents, please ask questions if need be. We have multiple sessions coming. If you don't feel the need to ask a question at this time and want to do more research on your own, or stop by and ask for myself, Ms. Brown, or Mrs. Minifield, and we will get the answers to you or be able to explain it more. Ms. Grandison from Central Office is also one of our support persons, and Dr. Venicia McClaney is one of those support persons. They work with the curriculum department. Dr. Millage mentioned that resources are going to be, if not already posted on our webpage. I can tell you they are posted to the district's webpage under the curriculum department. Ms. Grandison and some of the other ladies over there have done an awesome job with getting those resources. Our other support persons, such as Dr. McDonald and those ladies who work with us to ensure that we are looking at data and making sure we're having positive and meaningful conversations concerning our scholars, have really caused us to hit the ground running. I can tell you it is a lot of work. We have some heavy lifts here at GWC, not just with reading. However, the reading is what's going to cause our scholars to potentially be placed or retained in third grade. Our goal at GWC, with the help of the SHRIP, which is the Student Reading Intervention Plan, the plan that we're going to create together as a faculty, along with parents or guardians, to best ensure that our little people, known as scholars here at GWC, are at mastery level and meeting the cut score for ACAP. And that's in ELA, also known as reading. Mrs. Brown, awesome job with all of the things that she's doing to support us as well. Mrs. Brown, is there anything you want to add or anything you want to comment on? We have Ms. Grandison on the line from the curriculum department. Ms. Grandison, you're more than welcome to unmute and speak, as well as Dr. McClaney is on the line. You're welcome to mute and speak if you like, as well as some of the other persons from central office. So you're welcome to speak.
I'm happy to see that we have 66 participants from our various stakeholders. We have Tuskegee University, Dr. Glatova, she's on. I see Dr. Brooks is here. We have several of our parents that are here. So if you all have any questions and it may pertain to your particular area, if parents, you have a question, you're still not clear about some things, this is your time to ask those questions. Dr. Glatova and her students are on. So if we have our future educators that are still unclear about what the law is, this is the time that you can open up and answer those questions at this time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa McClaney. I certainly am very thankful that each of you has joined us on this evening. For those who have worked so diligently to make sure that our parents and community are aware, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Millage, Mr. Williams, Ms. Minifield, and all those who have made this happen. As has already been said, if you all have questions as parents, please let your school administrators or teachers know, and they will be able to provide more information for you. I also would like to say on behalf of Camp STEAM's 21st Century program, we are certainly excited that we have a lot of those instructors on tonight, as well as a lot of the parents. So we are grateful for that. And as I said, I would like to thank each of you for being part of this conversation this evening. And if you do have any questions, this is a great time to chime in and ask those questions so that you all can get truthful answers that will help you move through this school year. Thank you so much once again for being on tonight.
Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat box. Remember, our next step is to ensure that we complete a student reading improvement plan. Now, with that plan, I stated earlier, student reading intervention plan. Now, interventions are within the plan, but we call it the SHRIP, which is also known as the student reading improvement plan. Many of you have heard of MTSS, which is our multi-tiered systems of support. They're coming. They're going to take care of some of the things such as academics, behavior, and attendance. And that could be reading or math. So we have some heavy lifts coming. With that being said, I do see Dr. Williams on the line. And Dr. Williams, please take this moment to address everyone and we can go from there.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and excuse my tardiness. I had board
you're on
meeting.
mute, Doc. I think you're on mute, Doc.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Excuse my tardiness. I had board meeting, and so that's why I'm late getting on. But just wanted to take this opportunity. I'm not sure what I missed or if some of the things, I don't want to be redundant, but I do want you to understand the importance of the Alabama Literacy Act. And so we just wanted to share some important information with you about the Alabama Literacy Act. Because this act was put in place to ensure that all students in Alabama receive the necessary support to become proficient readers by the end of third grade. And so under the act, again, as I'm sure has been stated, some of the key points.
All right.
Third grade reading proficiency, which places strong emphasis on ensuring that students are proficient readers by the end of third grade. And that's a crucial moment in our students, milestone in our child's education. We also have support and intervention. That's a key point of it. So if the student is not, scholars are not reading at grade level by the end of third grade, they will receive additional support and interventions to help them to catch up. And then where you come in, most importantly, is that parental involvement. I did hear Dr. Millage mentioning that, because you as parents play a vital role in your child's literacy development. And so it's important to stay engaged with your child's education, which also includes attendance. They have to be at school in order to learn. So encourage reading at home and work closely with the teachers to help track your child's progress. We have summer reading camps, as Dr. McClaney mentioned, with 21st Century. As well, students who are not reading proficiently by the end of the third grade may be required to attend the summer camp to improve their reading skills. And then, of course, another key component is retention. And in some cases, if a student is significantly below grade 11 reading and has not made the sufficient progress, then they may face retention. But we just encourage you, as Mr. Williams mentioned, to stay informed about the Alabama Literacy Act and to work collaboratively with your child's teacher, with the administration. Just all of us are in this together. Our mantra, we're one. And so we're going to work together as one to get through this act as well. Reading is a fundamental skill, and it opens doors to a world of knowledge and an opportunity for our scholars' future. So again, if you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you and to give any further information or guidance. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for entrusting your little people to us each day for us to love on and care for. And so now we're going to help make sure that they're proficient readers, but we need your help as well. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, so much. We appreciate you and all that you do for all of the scholars here in Macon County and beyond. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out the meeting. There are several other meetings that will be held throughout this school year. Again, we have literacy and math nights. We have all types of activities planned for our scholars. We have to be able to do the work, but in order for us to do the work, our scholars must be in school. We also want to have limited interruptions, which means that during the reading block, we need our scholars to be in place and on time. We need all of our volunteers to register with the front office and be intentional about helping our scholars and our faculty become the persons that they need to be. And that's great educators, and most importantly, scholars that are prepared for the world. Other than that, Dr. Millage, anything from your end?
No, sir. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to the parents of your scholars. Again, if there are any questions that come about once we're done, if Mr. Williams, Ms. Minifield, Ms. Brown can't directly answer them, or if they may need to reach out to me, then I'm open to that. And parents, if you don't have any questions right now, I challenge you to ask one question to the other parents in the G.W. Carver family. And that question is simple. Do you know about the Literacy Act? The more the conversation is out there, the more it's understood by everyone who's involved, by all our stakeholders. And there's more of an opportunity for us to come together with the school to do what's needed to ensure our boys and girls are proficient in reading and all other areas. But again, thank you for your time. And I applaud you all for logging in tonight because it shows that you truly have a passion for what's needed for your children. Thank you.
Awesome job, Dr. Milledge. Round of applause for Dr. Milledge, air hugs for Dr. Milledge. Whatever it is we can do virtually to let him know that we appreciate him for taking time out of his schedule this evening to present to us. Once again, ask that question. Have you heard of the Literacy Act? We have the letters coming home between tomorrow and mid next week. Your scheduled time and date will be on the letter. If you are not available for that scheduled time, so we can create the improvement plan, you give us your option. It is laid out on the letter, and we'll try to accommodate you. We can do the meeting virtually, or we can do it in person. Other than that, have an awesome night. We look forward to seeing your scholar on tomorrow. Take care.